Chapter 7095. If you can get the Immortal Establishment pill, you'll definitely be able to break through. Lu Qiu looked at Lu Jin excitedly. An expert in the elementary celestial stage would definitely raise his family's status. However, no matter what he said, Lu Jin remained unmoved. In the end, Lu Qiu could only give up Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Finally, the Immortal Establishment pill was sold for 5 times the price. Although the cultivator who won the bid couldn't help but feel heartache, his mood improved a lot when he saw the size of the people around him. As long as he could break through to the elementary celestial stage, all of this was nothing. The people in this town are really rich. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The bidding just now was quite a big scene. Although the price of her Immortal Establishment pill wasn't high, it was still the normal price. Most ordinary cultivators could only look at such a price and sigh. However, almost everyone in this town had the power to compete. The difference between them could be seen. He didn't pay immediately, right? Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. It seems that we'll be able to see another guy with a spirit-devouring stone. The other party didn't pay immediately. Instead, he said that he would go home and get it before coming back. If he wasn't wrong, his response should be the same as Su Yu's. For the people in this town, there might be more spirit-devouring stones than blood-spirit stones. If we can follow this lead to get information, it'll be great. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. They hadn't found a breakthrough yet. This guy might be another possibility. Thinking about it carefully, they had been in this town for almost a month. However, they didn't see any movement from the others, let alone any interaction with the crossing celestial domain. It could be seen that these people were very secretive. If they couldn't find a breakthrough, they wouldn't be able to find anything just by observing. In the inn, the shopkeeper looked at the Immortal Establishment pill in his hand and couldn't help but feel lucky. Su Xing, if you hadn't helped me buy this Immortal Establishment pill earlier, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to buy it today. Su Xing was a little surprised. He didn't expect everyone to be so crazy. I heard that the price has increased by 5 times today. But in the outside world, I think it's still worth it. The shopkeeper nodded slightly. You're right. Those two are capable people. Noticing that the shopkeeper's attitude towards Di Beichern had softened a lot, Shen Xuxing asked tentatively, Shopkeeper, what about the deal they mentioned before? Let me think about it. Perhaps I can believe you. Hearing this, a hint of joy appeared in Shen Xuxing's eyes. That's great. I didn't expect you to help them so much even though you haven't known them for long. Actually, I just don't think they're bad people. Shen Xuxing smiled faintly, a trace of contemplation in the depths of his eyes. Vaguely, he had a feeling that Di Beichen and Yang Kai had come here for more than just the devouring spirit stones. As for what they were here for, he couldn't figure it out. However, he was certain that these two people did not have any ill intentions, so he did not want to speculate too much. At night, the cultivator who bought the pills came. Let me introduce myself. I'm Duan Chen. So it's young Master Duan. Chapter 7096. Young Master Duan, could it be that you want to use something else as collateral? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Duan Chen was slightly startled, then nodded. You're really smart, but I wonder if this will work? If I say no, will young Master Duan return the elixir? Duan Chen's expression suddenly became very nervous. I'm just joking, Di Beichen smiled faintly. But we'll have to see what you want to use as collateral. If it's a spirit-devouring stone, then it's fine, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said. Spirit-devouring stone? Duan Chen was startled. How do you know about the spirit-devouring stone? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The Immortal Establishment elixir is indeed expensive, but other elixirs are also extremely valuable. Although many people in the town still have misunderstandings about us, there are also friends who accept us. Isn't the spirit-devouring stone the most unique thing in town? Duan Chen was dumbfounded. After returning, He had thought for a long time before deciding to use the spirit-devouring stone instead of the blood-spirit stone. Because their town was really far from the outside world, it was more troublesome to exchange the blood-spirit stone every time. The appearance of Di Baichen, Duan Chen, and Ning Yaoyao had caused them to not dare to make any transactions recently. They were running low on blood-spirit stones, so they came up with this idea. He felt that as long as he concealed it and came up with another reason, Di Baichen and Duan Chen would not think too much about it. However, looking at the two of them, it was obvious that they already knew about it. I see. Duan Chen's expression was slightly complicated, but it soon became clear again. In that case, I've always been too narrow-minded. It turns out that the two of you already knew about it, but this news can't be told to anyone else. Young Master Duan, don't worry. We know how serious this matter is. If we didn't know that you're from town, we wouldn't have told you. We only brought it up because we don't want you to feel burdened. Duan Chen nodded slightly. You're right. In that case, I won't hide it from you. I do want to exchange the spirit-devouring stone. This is a spirit-devouring stone. Its value is also determined by its value in the outside world. Di Baichen took the devouring spirit stone and glanced at it. He already had an idea. Young Master Duan, I have a question. If you can answer me, I don't mind giving you this immortal establishment pill. Duan Zhang's eyes lit up, and then he said with some fear, I wonder what young Master Di wants to ask? If it's something that shouldn't be asked, I'm afraid I won't be able to answer. I shouldn't have asked this question, but I still want to ask. The two of them stared at each other for a long time before Duan Chen said, You can tell us. These spirit-devouring stones were really expensive. Even if it was him, after taking them out, he would become very poor for a period of time. If he could really take it back, it would undoubtedly be for the best. How can I enter the crossing immortal domain? As soon as these words were spoken, Duan Chen was instantly shocked, and he hurriedly glanced at the surroundings before he said, Young Master Di, have you gone mad? This is a big taboo. Di Baichen was not in a hurry. He had already set up a barrier outside, and no one could hear the conversation inside. Even Su Xin, who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage, could not. Chapter 70-97. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Duan Chen quickly stood up. He did not want to say anything else and hurriedly walked out. Young Master Duan, I don't intend to pry into the town's secrets. I have my reasons for asking this, Di Baichen said slowly. Duan Chen's footsteps paused slightly. Young Master Duan, I hope you can keep tonight's matter a secret, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Duan Chen stopped walking and looked at the two people behind him with a puzzled expression. Reasons for your reasons? I can see that the two of you are not ordinary people, especially the ability to refine the immortal establishment pill. You must be famous in the chaotic immortal realm. What's your purpose for coming here? Duan Chen's expression became solemn. If the two of them really wanted to dig out everything here, they would definitely die. Young Master Duan, can you take a seat first? Duan Chen slowly walked back and sat down. His expression was not as friendly as before. Please tell me. To tell you the truth, when we first ascended, we were captured and sent to mine. If it weren't for our good luck, we would have lost our lives by now. So, we're not unfamiliar with the spirit-devouring stone. You were captured to mine? Duan Chen was in disbelief. Impossible, almost no one came out alive from the spirit-devouring stone. If you really had such an experience, you wouldn't be like this now. In the next moment, Di Baichen took out a shovel. Young Master Duan, do you recognize this? Duan Chen looked at the shovel in front of him. His eyes suddenly froze. He instinctively took the shovel and studied it carefully. His expression became very strange. You really stayed in the spirit-devouring stone? Yes. It's unbelievable that the people in the spirit-devouring stone escape. It was a riot. They won't let you go easily. That's because an expert saved us. The hostility in Duan Chen's eyes softened a little. However, it was not completely gone. Since you've already escaped, why did you come back now? We still have family members in there, Di Baichen said. Duan Chen immediately understood. You want to save your family members? Yes. At this moment, Duan Jiedan understood. No wonder these two people would appear here and even sell the immortal establishment pills like this. Turned out that they were looking for a way to enter the immortal domain. Let me give the two of you a word of advice. Whether you live or die is up to fate. You were able to escape because of your great fortune. You are not fated to die. Since the others couldn't come out, they naturally had their own destinies. All these years, the entrance to the crossing immortal domain has been sealed. It's almost impossible for you to enter. Moreover, once you enter, it's even more impossible for you to come out. We just want to know if there's a way in. There's no other way. Duan Chen shook his head. If young Master Duan has any news, you can inform me at any time. I won't mistreat you. Di Baichen did not say anything else. It was already good enough that Duan Zhang could say this much. It would be strange if he told them tonight. Standing in front of the door, Duan Chen said, I won't tell anyone about what happened tonight, but I advise the two of you not to tell anyone else. Thanks for the reminder. Chapter 7098. Even though Duan Chen did not reveal much information to them, his reaction had already told them a lot. The town was indeed connected to the crossing immortal domain, and this connection had been secretly going on ever since the crossing immortal domain was closed. However, it should only involve the trade of spirit-devouring stones. It was impossible to get the people inside to come out. Master, as long as they can trade for spirit-devouring stones, we can go in. Even if it was just a small hole, it and Xiaobai could shrink and bring their master and the others in. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I've already found out some things tonight. This Duan Chen doesn't seem to be a scheming person. Compared to Lu Jin, who was difficult to approach, Duan Chen was undoubtedly much better. Maybe we can try to start with him? Xiaobai asked. Duan Chen probably doesn't know much. Di Baichen's voice rang out. Why? If he knew, his expression wouldn't be like this. I'm guessing that although this town is doing business related to spirit-devouring stones, not everyone has access to the core. I think the shopkeeper should know more than Duan Chen. Coincidentally, Shen Xuxing brought good news today. He said that the shopkeeper has already considered doing business with us. That's great. Ever since the immortal establishment pills were sold out, the people in the town no longer rejected Di Baichen and Xiaobai. After all, they had already been in before. If they acted like that again, it would be embarrassing. Under such circumstances, other medicinal pills also became very popular. Of course, there were also people who asked Bailey Hongzhuang to refine pills for them. As long as the price was right, Bailey Hongzhuang would not refuse. The moon was high in the sky, and the cool breeze was like water. Bailey Hongzhuang was resting in the house when she suddenly heard a hurried voice from outside. Miss Bailey, are you there? Shen Xianglin is dying. Please take a look at him. What's wrong? Shen Xianglin suddenly fainted. Dr. Yang has already seen him and said that he can't be cured. We can only ask Miss Bailey if there's a way to cure him. Hearing this, everyone also understood. They only had one doctor here, and that was Dr. Yang. Usually, if Dr. Yang said that he couldn't cure it, then everyone was at their wits' end. The only way was to run outside. However, in the past, when such a situation occurred, even if he ran outside, it was mostly useless. Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the house and saw Shen Xuxing and the shopkeeper carrying a person. The person's face was pale and he was unconscious. Su Xing, what's going on? Shen Xuxing shook his head. We don't know. He was fine at first, but he suddenly fainted. Bring it in first. Let me have a look. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, and Shen Xuxing and the shopkeeper quickly carried Shen Xianglin inside. Although the others wanted to follow him in, they were stopped by Di Beichen. Seeing a doctor requires a quiet environment. I hope everyone can wait outside. Seeing this, although everyone was filled with curiosity, they still stopped walking and stood outside to watch. Miss Bailey, please save my son. The shopkeeper's eyes were red. He only had one son. If something happened to him, he would really. Chapter 7099. Shopkeeper, don't worry. I'll do my best. Bailey Hongzhuang hid the surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect that the person who fainted would be the shopkeeper's son. However, this was a good opportunity for them. The shopkeeper nodded repeatedly and stepped aside. He didn't dare to disturb them. His face was still red and full of nervousness. With their physique, ordinary diseases wouldn't cause any trouble for them at all. Such a situation meant that it wasn't simple. They all knew about Dr. Yang's strength. Even in the outside world, his medical skills were very strong. In fact, when Dr. Yang said that there was no cure, his heart had already turned cold. Shen Xuxing reminded him to come here and give it a try. He had a glimmer of hope just now, but he also understood that this hope was too slim. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully checked Shen Xianglin's pulse. Suddenly, her expression became very strange. Miss Bailey, can he be saved? Shen Xuxing looked nervously at Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was full of worry. Do you know that he's poisoned? Yes. You know? Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. She knew that Shen Xianglin was poisoned as soon as she took his pulse. It was obvious that someone had poisoned him. The shopkeeper nodded. Sometimes things like this happen here. It's just that we don't know who did it. Does your town have such a history? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little startled. Weren't the people in this town very familiar with each other? That appearance of a common enemy made them look like a family. She didn't expect such a thing to happen. Indeed, the shopkeeper was a little helpless. It happened in our town before, but we couldn't find out who did it. Every time this happens, people usually lose their lives. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It seemed that the water in this town was very deep. Whether it was Shen Xianglin's poisoning or Lu Qiyu's family's curse, these things seemed to have some kind of connection. Miss Bailey, can you save him? Facing their earnest gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Don't worry, he will wake up tomorrow. The shopkeeper was stunned. Then, he grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. Is what you said true? Can you cure him? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The two of them looked at each other and hugged each other excitedly. Shopkeeper, I told you that Miss Bailey would have a way. Don't worry, Xianglin will be fine. Miss Bailey, thank you. I will never forget your kindness. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. Shopkeeper, you don't have to do this. I'll do my best. The poison in Shen Xianglin's body was not simple. It would not be easy for an ordinary doctor to detoxify it. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang had always been very knowledgeable in this area, so she only needed to spend some time to detoxify this kind of poison. However, she was even more curious about who had poisoned Shen Xianglin. The next morning, Shen Xianglin slowly woke up. Water, water! The shopkeeper didn't sleep for the entire night. When he noticed Shen Xianglin's movements, his face was overflowing with excitement. I'll get you some water. Chapter 7100. After drinking a glass of water, Shen Xianglin gradually regained consciousness. What happened to me before this? The shopkeeper's face was solemn. Do you remember what happened before you fainted? Only then did Shen Xianglin realize what had happened before. He suddenly felt a wave of lingering fear. I don't know. I was no different from usual, but when I walked to the inn, my vision suddenly turned black, and I don't remember anything after that. Then who did you meet? Or did something else happen? No. Shen Xianglin shook his head. I stayed at home yesterday and didn't go anywhere else. I only went to the inn at night when I was a little hungry. That's strange. The shopkeeper's face suddenly became very ugly. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xingxing's confusion, he said, "All these years, the main reason why we haven't been able to find the culprit is because of this. Almost every time, we can't figure out how the culprit poisoned us, and we have never been able to solve it. Then this place of yours is quite scary. It's very likely that you'll die without knowing why." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. This small town looked calm on the surface, but in fact it was turbulent. It was obvious that the culprit was a master. "Have you offended anyone recently?" The shopkeeper couldn't help but ask. The culprit wouldn't poison them for no reason, but they had always been dutiful, and yet the culprit wanted to kill them. Shen Xianglin pondered for a long time, and finally shook his head helplessly. "I've been acting like usual recently, and I haven't offended anyone. I don't understand why this kind of thing would happen to me. There must be a reason, but we haven't figured it out yet," Shen Xuxing said thoughtfully. "If every poisoning is related to the culprit, then we should be able to identify the culprit if we connect all the incidents together," Di Beichen said. "We thought so too, but in fact, even when we connected all the incidents together, we didn't find anything in common." The shopkeeper shook his head helplessly. "It's because we couldn't figure out the problem, so gradually, everyone stopped thinking about it. However, usually when something like this happens, the poisoned person will definitely die. This time, Xianglin is still alive. I'm afraid everyone will be very surprised," Shen Suxing said slowly. His eyes suddenly changed. "If that's the case, won't you be in danger?" As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the shopkeeper and the other two became abnormally ugly. If Di Beichen was killed because of helping them, then they would have to bear the blame. Seeing how nervous the three of them were, Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand slightly. "Don't worry, I'm a doctor myself. It won't be easy for them to poison me." Other things aside, she was full of confidence in this aspect. "Miss Bailey, you must be careful. Why don't you move back to the inn for a while? That way we can take care of you for free." "No need. We'll be fine. Don't worry." Seeing that Di Beichen had made up his mind, the shopkeeper didn't continue to insist. However, he couldn't help but worry. "How's Xianglin doing now?" Chapter 7101. I don't know who shopkeeper Shen's family offended. This time, Shen Xianglin was poisoned. I'm afraid he won't be able to keep his life. I've seen them enter the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and never come out. Perhaps they've already cured him. I've heard that Lady Bailey's medical skills are very exquisite. You're all too naive. That's impossible. Do you think it's because shopkeeper Shen's relationship with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion that he was poisoned? The crowd discussed animatedly. Not a single one of them did not sympathize with shopkeeper Shen. It was undoubtedly the most painful thing for a white-haired person to send off a black-haired person. However, when it was close to noon, shopkeeper Shen and Shen Xuxing supported Shen Xianglin as they walked out together. The people in the small town were all dumbfounded. Heavens, am I seeing things? Bailey Hongzhuang really cured Shen Xianglin? Doesn't this mean that her medical skills are better than Dr. Yang's? The crowd's expression suddenly became very interesting. Everyone believed that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills were not bad, but they never thought that her medical skills were also so outstanding. This is great. If something like this happens again in the future, we won't have to wait for death. It was unknown who spoke first, but everyone's eyes suddenly brightened. Poisoning. This matter had always been like a layer of shadow hanging over everyone's hearts. Every time they thought about it, they couldn't help but be alarmed. However, now that there was a doctor who could solve it, everything became much simpler. We have to think of a way to make Lady Bailey stay. In the room, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. What do you think? We don't know what happened in the past, so we can't judge. However, I feel that it's not just one person who did this kind of thing. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Perhaps in the beginning, Someone poisoned someone to avenge a personal grudge, causing the effect of panic. Later on, someone imitated this method and put the blame on the first person. It is precisely because there is more than one person that everyone is unable to make a judgment. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. This was the biggest possibility she could think of, and it was the only way to explain everything. It's undeniable that there must be a person involved in all these events, Di Beichen said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Now that I think about it, this person is indeed quite scary. Do you have anyone in mind? Actually, I'm quite curious about Dr. Yang here. He's a doctor himself, and his medical skills are quite outstanding. The others here don't know anything about medicine. If he were to do it, the success rate would be very high. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. He is indeed very suspicious, but he has always been safe. Even if it is really him, he must have used other methods to clear everyone's suspicion of him. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned casually on the reclining chair. Actually, this matter has nothing to do with us. The other party can't threaten us. If he really doesn't have eyes and wants to make a move on us, we'll just take care of him. If he doesn't have any intention of being hostile to us, then we'll mind our own business. She never liked to meddle in other people's business, unless something provoked them. Chapter 7102. They had always wanted to find an opportunity to gain shopkeeper Shen's trust. Initially, there was only a glimmer of hope. After this incident, shopkeeper Shen would not hold back too much from them. This was undoubtedly good news. Once Shen Xianglin's condition improves, we can go and ask around. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. They had been here for so long. Finally, there was progress. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He walked out of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the scene along the way was different. Miss Bailey, you're out for a walk. Young Master D, where do you plan to go? We have a gathering tonight. Do you want to come and have a meal together? Almost everyone they met on the way greeted them warmly. It was as if they were natives of the town. There was no rejection or estrangement at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It had only been a day. What was wrong with the people in the town? Why do I feel like they're suddenly so friendly? Why do I feel like there's a conspiracy? Xiao Hei's face was full of suspicion. As the saying goes, one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and praised, "Not bad. You even know how to use these flexibly now." I feel like something is wrong too. Xiao Bai nodded. But I can't figure out why. Di Beichen smiled faintly. You'll understand in a while. Shen family in. Young Master D, you're here. Shen Xuxing's face revealed a happy smile. He quickly invited the two of them in. You haven't eaten yet, right? Let's see what you want to eat. Di Beichen casually ordered a few dishes. At the same time, other people in the inn greeted them with smiles on their faces. They were so familiar with each other that they were like good brothers. In fact, the two of them did not even know who these people were. Xuxing, sit with us. Di Beichen waved his hand. Shopkeeper Shen nodded. Xuxing, you should all gather together. You're not busy now anyway. After Shen Xuxing sat down, he smiled and said, Did you notice that everyone's behavior is very strange? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. They do change their attitude very quickly. Haha. Shen Xuxing couldn't help but laugh. I actually admire them. They aren't embarrassed at all. Actually, the reason is quite simple. It's because Miss Bailey cured Xianglin. No one knows if this kind of thing will happen to them in the future, so they do their best to build a good relationship with you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't look too surprised. Previously, they had already guessed this kind of trap, but the people in this small town were too tacit. These guys are really cunning. Xiao He was secretly speechless. After all this fuss, it turned out that this was the truth. This is a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Xiao Hei's head. This means that everyone is willing to accept us. Shen Xuxing nodded. That's right. You're really amazing. You've been welcomed by everyone so quickly. By the way, shopkeeper Shin said that he would talk to them about the spirit-devouring stone tonight. However, this matter has to be kept a secret, Shin Shuxing said through voice transmission. Di Baichen and Xiao Hei's eyes lit up. As expected, shopkeeper Shin was returning the favor. We understand. Night gradually enveloped the land. The entire town was covered in a layer of darkness. Chapter 7103. Mr. D, since we're already here, let's get straight to the point. Shopkeeper Shin looked at the two of them and said, My secret room is very well hidden. Apart from the Shun family, no one else knows about its existence. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Shopkeeper Shin had already shown his sincerity by bringing them here. Do you want to do business with me with the soul-devouring stones? Shopkeeper Shin asked. If that's the case, I can work with you. Shopkeeper Shin, since you're so honest, we won't hide it from you anymore. Di Bei Chen's face was calm, his eyes like the sea twinkling with a star-like luster. Actually, we're not concerned about the soul-devouring stones. Shopkeeper Shin was stunned. This was out of his expectations. We want to know how you got the soul-devouring stones. Shopkeeper Shin's face stiffened when he heard this. He was afraid. Mr. D, I'll remember how you saved Xianglin's life. I'll try my best to do whatever I can. However, I can't tell you this. Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised by Shopkeeper Shin's attitude. It was within their expectations. We know that the soul-devouring stones came from the crossing immortal domain, even if you don't tell us. Di Baichen went straight to the point. Shopkeeper Shin's face changed and a fierce look flashed across his face. Why are you here? We don't mean any harm. You don't have to be so nervous. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped forward and said, Actually, we're here to find a way to enter the crossing immortal domain. Are you crazy? Shopkeeper Shin looked as if he had heard something unbelievable. He was stunned for a moment. Everyone knows what's going on in the crossing immortal domain. No one in the chaotic immortal domain is willing to go there. We're here to find our family. Bailey Hongzhuang told Shopkeeper Shin about their troubles. Of course, all of this was just a cover that they came up with. However, it was undeniable that they were worried about their family's future. The wariness in Shopkeeper Shin's eyes slowly disappeared. After understanding everything, his attitude was no longer as tough as before. So that's how it is. You guys are really affectionate and loyal. For many people, their own lives were the most important. Everything else could be cut off at will. In comparison, the two of them were truly loyal and loyal. Shopkeeper, we would like to ask for your help. How can we let them in? You're right. Our spirit-devouring stone did come from the crossing immortal domain, but the process was quite dangerous. Most importantly, this matter was handled by the Liu family. Only Liu Jin knows the details. After the shopkeeper's explanation, they finally understood that they had obtained the spirit-devouring stone by crossing the heavenly moat. This process was extremely dangerous and could only be done once a year. Every family in their town had to pay something for this trip, whether it was blood spirit stones, runes, magic treasures, or something else. In the end, the most powerful few would set off to cross the natural moat. Among them, the Liu family was a core member. Shopkeeper Shin had never been to the heavenly moat, so he was not very clear about this. Thank you, shopkeeper. Di Baichen cupped his hands. This was a great help to them. Chapter 7104. Noticing Di Baichen's expression, the shopkeeper could not help but say, Don't tell me you're planning to try it yourselves? That's definitely not possible. Why? We've been in contact with the crossing immortal domain for many years. They know that there's a path with the least danger. The heavenly moat is filled with danger. Not to mention radiant sun realm cultivators, even elementary immortal realm cultivators would have a 90% chance of survival. It's precisely because they know the path that they've been in contact with the crossing immortal domain until now. Some people have tried it before, but none of them survived. The shopkeeper's expression was serious. Don't be stupid. Speaking of this, the shopkeeper could not help but laugh. You're very stupid to want to enter the crossing immortal domain. But since it's to save someone, you have to protect your own lives first. Thank you for your advice, shopkeeper. We'll think of a plan before taking action. Now that the people in town have begun to accept you, if you can cure Lu Qiu's illness, I believe Lu Jin will be willing to bring you along. The shopkeeper suggested. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly heavy. Their previous judgment was not wrong. Lu Jin was the one who was very clear about this matter. Lu Jin is not an easy person to deal with. Look at him. He's not even interested in alchemy. You can see how stubborn he is. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Lu Qiu is his son. He won't sit by and watch his son die. Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen lay on the bed and looked at the wooden plank above them. Their eyes were filled with thoughts. Lu Jin's temper is so strange. If we act on our own, he might be even more resistant. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. We can only cast a long line to catch a big fish. Lu Qiu is already sick. They won't be able to bear it for long. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. An idea suddenly appeared in her mind. I've thought of a good idea. It should be able to shorten the waiting time. But Lu Qiu will have to suffer a little. Di Beichen turned his head. What idea? The reason why Lu Jin is able to remain calm is because Lu Qiu's condition isn't too serious yet. If it becomes serious, then he definitely won't be able to sit still. So, as long as I think of a way to speed up his recovery. You don't know much about him. Are you sure you can do it? Don't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of confidence. I'm almost certain that he was also poisoned. There are some herbs that have a catalytic effect. Di Beichen pecked the woman's mouth. My wife is the best. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Of course. The night is long. Let's not think about other people. Let's think about our own things. Di Beichen flipped over and got on. The Lu family. Father, you've always said that Bailey Hongzhuang is unreliable. Look, Shen Xianglin was cured by her. It can be seen that her medical skills are outstanding. Why don't I give it a try too? Maybe my condition can be cured too. Lu Qiu looked at Lu Jin expectantly. Ever since he found out about this matter, he could no longer suppress his inner thoughts. No one wanted to die. Even if he had accepted this result in despair, when this glimmer of hope appeared, his desire to live was incited. He hated that he couldn't immediately walk into the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 7105. Lu Jin's expression did not change. His voice was still cold and resolute. So many people saw it. How could it be fake? Shopkeeper Shen and the others were very close to these two outsiders. This time, it just had to happen to Shen Xianglin. Maybe the whole thing is part of their scheme to lure us in. After hearing his father's analysis, Lu Qiu gasped in amazement. Father, you're too imaginative. Although shopkeeper Shen was the first to know them, he wouldn't put Shen Xianglin in danger for them, right? Didn't you hear what everyone said? Dr. Yang is helpless against this poison. These two people came from the outside world. It's not surprising that they have some powerful poison on them. Seeing that Lu Jin was not moved, Lu Qiu could not help but shake his head. He thought that after this incident, Lu Jin's thoughts would change. He did not expect the situation to be the complete opposite. It was another night. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the packet of powder to Xiao Bai. You just need to put this in the Lu family's potted plant. Mistress, this kind of small matter can be done quickly. Don't worry. I naturally trust your abilities. However, this Lu Jin is not simple. You should be careful. Yes. Watching the backs of the two demon beasts leave, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the crescent moon in the sky. The cold moonlight shone down, bringing with it a hazy brilliance. This Lu Jin might be hiding his true colors. Di Beichen's voice gradually rang out. In the past 2 days, He had carefully thought over the shopkeeper's words. Since Heaven's Moat was a place that even elementary immortal cultivators had a hard time traversing, it was simply too difficult for a few Radiant Sun cultivators to traverse it. When he thought of Lu Jin's attitude towards the immortal pill, he faintly guessed that perhaps Lu Jin had already broken through to the elementary immortal stage. That was why he was so calm. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what he meant. What you said is not impossible. If that's really the case, then he's hidden very deeply. If that's really the case, then an expert like him can do whatever he wants in the Radiant Sun realm. Why would he stay here? I don't know, but there must be a reason for him to stay here. We just don't know what it is. Will Xiao He and Xiao Bai be in danger? Let's go take a look. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang out of the courtyard and walked towards the Lu family. If Lu Jin was really a cultivator in the elementary immortal realm, they might be able to find out tonight. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately rolled into the Lu family's residence. After noticing that there was no movement, they quietly sprinkled the medicinal powder into the potted plant. This kind of thing is really too simple for us. After it was settled, Xiao He and Xiao Bai high-fived each other and happily left the Lu residence. However, as soon as they came out, the two little fellows also noticed Di Beichen and his companion. They couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Master, why are you here? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the calm Lu family and said, It seems that our guess was wrong. Lu Jin, aren't you going to drink more? A loud voice rang out from behind. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and realized that the person who spoke was Su Shin, who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage. Chapter 7106. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. It seems that we didn't test him at the right time. Su Shin, I've already drunk a lot. Let's drink another day. Lu Jin obviously didn't want to continue drinking. He waved his hand and walked back to the Lu family. What a bummer. We were drinking and now you want to go back. You're really strange. Su Shin waved his hand disappointedly and said with disdain, You'll have to treat me next time. Okay. Lu Jin quickened his pace and quickly rushed in the direction of Bailey Hongzhuang. Maybe we've achieved our goal. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. There was a hint of self-evident understanding between his brows. I didn't expect this town to be so full of hidden talent. All of this can be explained. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She had always felt that Lu Jin's attitude was very strange. Now that she knew that Lu Jin was an expert in the elementary celestial stage, she understood. A poison that even an expert in the elementary celestial stage can't cure. It seems that this poison is really tricky. She didn't believe in curses, and she believed that Lu Jin wouldn't believe in such nonsense. However, Lu Qiu was already in such a situation, but he still maintained such an attitude. It proved that he had already determined that this poison was impossible to cure. In this way, all of his attitude could be explained. After Lu Jin returned home, he looked around the courtyard. After finding that there was nothing unusual inside, his face became very gloomy. Since you're already here, why do you need to hide? Looking at the crescent moon in the sky, Lu Jin's face was indescribably cold. I didn't expect you to be so secretive. Di Beichen slowly walked out of the shadows. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, the moonlight shone on him, plating him with a layer of faint brilliance. He was like an immortal in the moon, indescribably elegant. Young Master Di is really amazing. Your cultivation has reached this level at such a young age. It's my fault. A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. Coming to my courtyard in the middle of the night is not the conduct of a gentleman. Lu Jin's expression darkened. What exactly do you want? I think you already know what's going on. Otherwise, you wouldn't have rushed back. Lu Jin sized up the fearless man in front of him, a trace of suspicion in his heart. Do you think you can defeat me? I only came here hoping that you could do me a favor. My original intention was not to stay here for long. As long as you are willing to help me, I will disappear from your sight as long as I achieve my goal. I will not interfere with your life. Why should I help you? What if we can cure Lu Qiu? Lu Jin chuckled. What an arrogant tone. What makes you think you can help me? Of course, I know that you must have used many methods, but you should also be able to guess that I am confident in saying such words at this time. Hearing this, Lu Jin's expression changed. His gaze was constantly sizing up Di Baichen. He had to admit that if the other party was only a cultivator at the glorious sun stage, he would not even believe such shameless words. However, the other party was already at the elementary immortal stage at such a young age. His hidden strength was so strong that even he did not notice it before. It was clear that he had a certain level of ability. Chapter 7107. Lu Jin's feelings were extremely complicated. Di Baichen's cultivation was beyond his expectations. He had been keeping his distance earlier because he felt that the two of them were strange. However, it was obvious that the two of them had more trump cards than he had imagined. Di Baichen was the only one in front of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was still a mystery. He could not be sure if she was also an expert in the elementary immortal realm. Di Baichen noticed Lu Jin's expression and knew that he was not really tempted. He just wanted to find out more about them. However, this conversation was going to happen sooner or later. He did not mind saying it first. We need to enter the crossing immortal domain. Lu Jin frowned but did not speak immediately. The person we're looking for is in the crossing immortal domain, so we have to enter. As long as you help us enter, we'll help you cure Lu Qiu. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows slightly. Lu Jin was the first person who did not immediately refute them. Even if you can cure Qiu, he's just one person. Once you tell others about this, the entire town might cease to exist. Why do you think I'll agree? We can make an oath, Di Baichen said. Lu Jin was slightly startled. Swearing an oath was very useful for cultivators. They had already become immortals. The fact that the other party was willing to make an oath proved that his words were trustworthy. I need to think about it. Your son's illness can't wait for too long. We're willing to discuss it with you on an equal footing. We hope that this matter can be done quietly. However, this doesn't mean that I don't have other methods. Di Baichen glanced at Lu Jin indifferently. The latter immediately felt as if a knife was scraping his body. He felt cold all over. You have 3 days to think about it. In the next moment, Di Baichen's figure disappeared from the courtyard as if he had never appeared. That night, Lu Jin stood in the courtyard for a long time. He only returned to the house when the sky gradually brightened. On the third day, Xiao He paced back and forth in the house. It's already the last day, and Lu Jin still hasn't appeared. Could it be that he didn't agree? This old fellow won't take the opportunity to run away with his entire family, right? Why don't I keep an eye on them? Xiao Bai said worriedly. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and pulled the two little fellows onto the table. Lu Jin is an elementary immortal expert. Even if he doesn't agree, he shouldn't be so spineless. When night fell and Bailey Hongzhuang was about to close the door, a hand suddenly pressed against the door. She opened the door and found that Lu Jin was already standing outside. I'm here to give you an answer. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Please come in. Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang brought in 2 cups of tea. Thank you. Lu Jin took a sip of tea and went straight to the point. Apart from your conditions, I have another request. Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang raised their eyebrows slightly and did not answer. As long as you agree to my request, I'll help you enter the crossing immortal domain. Tell me. I want to know who the person who attacked my Lu clan is. You should know better than anyone about this, right? We know nothing about your family. It won't be easy to find the culprit, Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. Chapter 7108. I can try. Lu Jin's eyes lit up. But I can't guarantee that I'll be able to find the murderer. If this person isn't from this town or there are other possibilities, You don't think that we'll help you find the murderer all over the world, do you? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression revealed a kind of indifferent alienation. They were only discussing a deal. She didn't want the other party to take a mile after taking an inch. Lu Jin nodded slightly. I understand, as long as you can tell me the situation of this poison and give me some clues. As for the rest, I'll take care of it myself. Deal. When Lu Qiu saw his father and Bailey Hongzhuang talking and laughing as they walked over, he couldn't help but rub his eyes, wondering if he had lost his mind and was hallucinating. Stop rubbing, it's embarrassing, Lu Jin said disdainfully. Feeling this familiar tone, Lu Qiu finally believed that he wasn't dreaming and immediately stood up excitedly. Father, did your head get squeezed by the door today? Lu Jin's face darkened. Haven't you always been hoping to get Miss Bailey to treat your illness? If you don't want to, then forget it. Hey father, don't. Lu Qiu hurried over. I want to see it, I want to see it, I definitely want to see it. Miss Bailey, can you help me see if my illness can be cured? Although Lu Qiu's words were simple, it seemed like he didn't care about all this at all, but his slightly heavier than usual panting revealed his inner nervousness. This was already his last hope. If it still failed, then it would be completely hopeless. After Bailey Hongzhuang carefully took Lu Qiu's pulse, she found that the situation was indeed unusual. Compared to Shun Xianglin's poison, this poison was undoubtedly much more complicated. Almost immediately, she was sure that the person who poisoned Lu Qiu and Shun Xianglin were not the same person. If it was the same person, even if the hatred between the two people was different, the difference in the poison wouldn't be so big. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang fall into silence after taking his pulse, Lu Qiu's heart sank bit by bit. Ever since this incident happened to their family, they had gone to visit many godly doctors, but in the end they had all returned empty-handed. Miss Bailey, is there no cure for my illness? Lu Qiu couldn't help but ask. He forced a smile and said, It's okay. Actually, I'm already mentally prepared. Lu Jin was also very nervous. He thought about it for 3 days before agreeing. He really didn't want to see his son fall like this. That was a pain he couldn't bear. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. After a long while, she said, If I'm not wrong, this should be a type of goo poison. The moment these words were spoken, Lu Qiu and the other person could not help but be stunned. Goo poison? Not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I've dabbled in goo poison to a certain extent. Your poison is the most similar to goo poison. In that case, someone planted goo in our family. Lu Jin's expression became very ugly. Goo poison was much more difficult to treat than ordinary poison. Ordinary people were most unwilling to be contaminated with goo poison. He did not expect that it would appear in their bodies. I need some time to study it carefully. Don't be impatient. Chapter 7109. I still have some confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I will do my best to cure you. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Lu Qiu's lips curled into a smile. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang took some of the poison blood and carefully understood Lu Qiu's symptoms. Then, she began to study it. She had dabbled in goo poison in the past, and had a certain understanding of it when she followed Granny Hua. However, Granny Hua focused more on guiding her in other areas. Although she had mentioned goo poison, she was not as proficient in other areas. Fortunately, she still had some books that Granny Hua left for her in her chaos ring. Perhaps she could find some clues from them. Young Master D, is Miss Bailey really confident? Lu Jin looked in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang left and asked. Di Beichen nodded slightly. If there is really no cure, she will not waste her time. Lu Jin was relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang did not give up. At least, it meant that they still had a glimmer of hope. Think about it carefully. Who could do such a thing? Di Beichen looked at Lu Jin. Using goo poison required some skills. There were not many people who were good at goo poison. If there was such a person among their friends, they would be able to lock onto the target. I will confirm it carefully. However, this news must not be told to anyone to avoid alerting the enemy. Lu Jin reminded. Don't worry. We still have to find a way to help you find the person who poisoned you. Ever since returning to Immortal Treasure Pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang found a book about goo poison from the medical books that Granny Hua gave her. She quickly read through the contents. She did not like to raise goo poison usually. She only felt that it was very troublesome. However, when she thought about the people in the town, she really could not think of anyone who was good at it. This person must have never told anyone that he was good at goo poison. He has always been very secretive in order to use it as a trump card. Xiao He was secretly speechless. I did not expect the people here to be so scary. They have so many tricks up their sleeves. It is really frightening. Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I think there are only a few targets. As long as we can detoxify the poison, it won't be difficult to lure the snake out of its hole. Master, are you sure which type of goo poison it is? It should be the heart-devouring goo. The goo worms here are much more powerful than the ones we encountered before. The cultivators in the chaotic immortal realm have very pure origin energy. The goo worms fed with this kind of origin energy are extremely powerful. I need to think of a way to force them out of my body. Although there were related records in the books, this kind of thing couldn't be understood just by reading it. She had to start from the basics. Every type of goo worm had different characteristics, and after staying in a person's body for a long time, there would be some changes. She had to understand everything clearly before she could make a move. Otherwise, if something were to happen, it would be too early. I think that Lu Qiu's condition has been all right recently. There shouldn't be any problems for the time being. There's still time. Xiao He comforted. Bailey Hongzhuang was engrossed in reading the medical book. From time to time, she would write something down. Through this inspection, they could determine the true situation of the goo worms. Chapter 71:10. In this environment where no one disturbed her, Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding of the goo poison continued to improve. In the beginning, there were only some vague directions, but gradually, she began to research how to force the goo out without affecting Lu Qiu. However, this peace was suddenly broken one day. Miss Bailey, Qiu is dying. Lu Jin ran to Immortal Treasure Pavilion in a panic. His usually cold face was now filled with anxiety. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with panic and pain. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. According to her observation, Lu Qiu's goo poison could last for at least a year. Although she had asked Xiao He and Xiao Bai to put medicinal powder in their house, she had resolved the catalytic effect of the medicinal powder after they cooperated. Logically speaking, such a situation should not have happened. I don't know. It suddenly became like this. Let's go and take a look. The three of them quickly rushed to the Lu family. Along the way, Lu Jin also talked about the recent situation. Previously, the situation of the people in our family before they died was very similar to Qiu's situation. However, they took longer to act up than Qiu. I don't understand why he acted up so early. You must find a way to save him first. As long as you can save him, I will do my best to help you complete your wish. Don't worry too much. I've already thought of a way. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious. During this period, she had a comprehensive understanding of Lu Qiu's goo poison. Originally, she had planned to try to force the goo out in a few days. However, she did not expect such a situation to occur today. When they arrived, they found Lu Qiu's body twitching. Blood was flowing out of his nose, and he looked to be in extreme pain. Father, save me! Save me! Lu Qiu screamed in pain. He lay on the bed and kicked the blanket with his feet. His expression was ferocious and terrifying. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately knew how terrible the situation was. The insect queen had already directed the child insects to take Lu Qiu's life. If they did not stop it immediately, then Lu Qiu would die without a doubt. She reached out and grabbed Lu Qiu's arm. Through feeling his pulse, she found an unusual fluctuation near Lu Qiu's heart and immediately understood. That was where the child insects were. Young Master Lu, why don't you ask this? Bailey Hongzhuang took out a sachet and placed it in front of Lu Qiu's nose. This was the medicine she had prepared a few days ago. It could temporarily calm the child worms. The smell wasn't pleasant and was even a little pungent. Lu Qiu couldn't help but frown. However, when he smelled the scent, he was surprised to find that the pain in his body was not as intense as before. He immediately snatched the sachet and sniffed it desperately. Take off his shirt. Bailey Hongzhuang instructed and took out the needle bag. Lu Jin had already unbuttoned Lu Qiu's clothes. Numerous silver needles circled around Lu Qiu's heart and pierced into the corresponding acupoints. The silver needles, which contained pure energy, trembled unceasingly, exuding a pure power. Chapter 7140. There was a problem with the goo poison. Unknowingly, Lu Qiu had fallen into a deep sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang made a cut on his finger and took out a fresh animal organ. What are you going to do? Lu Jin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang doubtfully, his eyes full of confusion. Think of a way to lure this goo worm out. Bailey Hongzhuang said, I have already studied it. This goo worm's level is not low. If you want to kill it directly in your body, I am afraid Master Lu will not be able to save his own life. But this can lure the goo worm out? Lu Jin did not believe it. If it was so simple, then goo worms would not be so scary. Of course, that's not all. I added something to this animal's internal organs. It should be its favorite taste. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Every kind of goo worm had its own favorite smell. Smell was the way to attract goo worms. I wanted to feel pain in Master Lu's body. Coupled with the temptation from the outside, there is a chance of success. Now, the queen worm's order is for it to devour this heart, but it may not know which heart it is. I see. Lu Jin suddenly understood, but he really didn't understand this aspect. But looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's solemn vow, he felt a bit more confident. Please, you have to save him. At the same time, in another place, a woman looked at the queen worm in front of her with a complicated expression. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Just now it was about to succeed. But for some reason, the child worm seemed to have stopped for a moment, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep. How is this possible? This has never happened before. I don't know either. Could it be that they have found a way to deal with it? Impossible. My goo poison has never made a mistake. In this place, no one can compare to me. This Bailey Hongzhuang who recently came is a little strange. I heard that she had plans to treat Lu Qiu before, but Lu Jin rejected her. Maybe this old guy has thought it through recently. That girl's alchemy skills are not bad, but alchemy is different from goo poison. Even if she cured Shen Xianglin, she definitely can't cure Lu Qiu. The woman's lips curled up slightly. Look, the child worm is reacting again. That's good. The man sighed in relief and smiled proudly. It's time to destroy the Lu family. Once Lu Qiu is dead, it will be Lu Jin's turn. Not long after, a satisfied smile appeared on the woman's face. Lu Qiu is dead. Haha, that's great. A smile appeared on the man's face. Lu Jin must be heartbroken now. You should be more careful these days. Don't reveal any flaws. Lu Jin's strength is not simple. Don't worry. He won't think of it. The man was full of confidence. Lu family inside the house. After Bailey Hongzhuang removed the silver needles from Lu Qiu's body one by one, she wiped the sweat off her forehead and sighed in relief. This is the goo worm? Lu Jin looked at the glass cup in his hand. There was a very small black worm in it. Previously, he saw this worm gradually crawl out of Lu Qiu's finger. In the end, it completely ate the animal's internal organs. Its speed shocked him. End of chapter. Chapter 7147. All right, I promise you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, this is the child worm of the goo worm. The mother worm is in the hands of the person who poisoned you. This child worm has been in Sir Lu's body for a long time. The other party must be trying to create a curse. That's why they dragged it out for so long. That means the rest of our family died in the hands of this worm? Lu Jin's expression turned extremely ugly. He had thought of many ways to deal with this situation after it had happened. He naturally did not believe what others said about curses, but as he could not find the cause, he vaguely felt that this might be the case. At this moment, he finally understood the truth. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Jin and said, "This person has a deep grudge with you, and using such a method, he might be more familiar with you. If it was an ordinary grudge, the other party could have just poisoned them to death, but they had to spend so much effort. Their motive was undoubtedly to prevent this matter from implicating them." Lu Jin's eyes dimmed, a gloomy look appeared on his face. "Using this child worm, can you find the mother worm? If you can help me find the other party, I will do my best to help you." Lu Jin's expression was serious, his eyes shone with hatred. His entire family had died in the hands of this goo worm. The other party's intention was to exterminate his entire family. If he did not take revenge, how could he face his family in the underworld? "You want to enter crossing immortal domain, I will help you." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. As expected, Lu Jin had a way. "All right, I promise you." Lu Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Although he already had a few suspects, the other party had concealed this matter so well, it would not be easy to find them. He wanted to find the real culprit. If he alerted the other party, it would be more troublesome. Di Beichen smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Are you confident? There is a connection between the mother insect and the child insect. However, if the other party is a careful person, she may directly erase all of this." Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, "There's another possibility. This kind of thing has happened in your family several times. Perhaps the other party is very arrogant. Takes a lot of effort to cultivate this kind of goo worm. If Oshur can take it back, he should be willing to do so." Lu Jin was confused. "Then what should we do now? Should we follow this insect back?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "What we need to do now is wait. Wait! I think she will recall the child worms. Otherwise, the child worms would be dead by now." A confident smile appeared on her exquisite face. Instantly, her radiance shot out in all directions. Even in the middle of the night, her eyes were still bright and dazzling. Lu Jin didn't say anything, but he believed in the ability of the young woman in front of him. "Thank you, Mrs. D." Hearing this different form of address, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows and looked at Di Beichen. Di Beichen smiled faintly. "I told him that we are already married. If he keeps calling you miss, it will be easy for others to take advantage of him." Bailey Hongzhuang laughed lightly, her eyes were full of smiles. She didn't hear this form of address often. "Don't tell anyone that we are here," Bailey Hongzhuang reminded Lu Jin. "Otherwise, the other party might be on guard." End of chapter. Chapter 71-48. Revenge for the extermination of his family. "I understand." Lu Jin nodded deeply. The night had enveloped him in a ball of darkness, as if he had sunk into boundless darkness. Only when he raised his head to look at the unconscious Lu Qiu, a trace of hope flashed in his eyes, illuminating his desolate heart. When will Qiu wake up? Once the worm comes out, will he be fine? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the pale man on the bed and shook her head. "He will wake up tomorrow. The worm has been in his body for a long time. His body is lacking a lot. Now that it suddenly came out, his condition will be even worse. He will need to recuperate for a period of time before he will gradually recover." Lu Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Even if he had to spend a little more time, it was fine. As long as he was still alive, it was fine. Make more supplements for him, he will recover faster. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "I can write a list for you. Thank you very much." Taking advantage of the dark night, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen brought Lu Qiu to Immortal Treasure Pavilion. However, Lu Jin stayed at home and stared at the worm. They decided not to spread the news that Lu Qiu was still alive. This way, they would be able to find the culprit faster. The next day, when Lu Qiu woke up, he felt that his body was extremely weak and he was unable to sit up. What happened to me? Lu Qiu was a little confused. This was not his house at all. Di Baichen walked over. You are awake. Young Master Di? You. Lu Qiu looked at the house and then looked at Di Baichen. Only then did he remember what happened yesterday. I am still alive? Don't worry, you are very lucky. You won't die. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in. Lu Qiu was overjoyed. Really? I won't die? The goo poison has been cured. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and passed a bowl of medicinal porridge over. You are very weak now. Rest more. Where is my father? I was clearly at home earlier. How did I wake up here? Your father is investigating the real culprit. Lu Qiu's expression changed, and he immediately wanted to get out of bed. I want to go too. Which bastard did this to us? Di Baichen stopped him with one hand and said, The news that you are still alive is a secret. If you go out, you will alert the enemy. Leave this matter to us. Lu Qiu was stunned for a moment, but he quickly understood the whole thing. However, there was still a trace of unwillingness between his brows. If I find him, I'll make sure he dies a horrible death. In the past, he had always thought that their family's feng shui was not good, or that it was bad luck brought about by what his father and the others had done. He did not expect that it was all man-made. This kind of anger almost burned his entire heart. This was simply a vengeance for the extermination of a sect. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang left Xiao He and Xiao Bai behind to take care of Lu Qiu before they went to the Lu family. As soon as they entered the house, they saw Lu Jin guarding the insect. It was as if he had not slept a wink the entire night. How is it? Lu Jin looked up and saw the two of them. He shook his head. There is no movement yet. Be patient. The other party knows that your strength is not ordinary. They will not take it back so quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down at the side. This kind of situation was not strange at all. It's fine. Let's wait. Lu Jin's expression was calm, but the trace of scarlet hatred in his eyes was shocking to the eye. Now that the threat had been removed, it was no big deal to spend a little more time. End of chapter. Chapter 7149. For 3 days, the child worm did not move. It stayed in the box quietly, as if it was asleep. This goo worm isn't dead, right? Lu Jin looked at the motionless goo worm with worry in his eyes. If the goo worm was dead, it would be difficult to find the culprit. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head with a faint smile. It ate so many things earlier, its body is filled with energy, it is just resting now. Jiang Zhen invited me to his place for dinner tonight. He might be testing me. Lu Jin raised his head. His solemn expression was complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin raised their eyebrows. Lu Qiu's matter had not spread out yet. Others naturally did not know about it. The only person who knew what happened was the person who poisoned the goo worm. If someone mentioned it tonight, it would be much easier to find the culprit. Go and take a look, you should have some results. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Okay. Lu Jin looked at the sky. I should set off soon, the others have probably arrived already. Di Baichen looked at the goo worm in front of him, saying, You waited until now to see if this goo worm will move? Lu Jin nodded. That's right. Go, we will watch over it. However, just as Lu Jin was about to set off, they suddenly discovered that the goo worm moved. Noticing this, everyone's expression changed. Lu Jin hurriedly followed the goo insect. When he realized that the goo insect was heading towards Jiang Zhen's residence, his expression turned ugly. Could it be, the person who poisoned it is Jiang Zhen? Is he the only one there tonight? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lu Jin shook his head. Su Xin and Yang Tianzhao will be there too. Yang Tianzhao? Di Baichen was puzzled. Dr. Yang? That's right. It seems that you are very close. Actually, it is always the four of us going to do Immortal Domain every time. Lu Jin didn't intend to hide it. Since he had decided to help Di Baichen and Wang Zhong enter, they would find out about this sooner or later. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other, and their expressions became very strange. If that's the case, then the person who poisoned him might be one of the four. You go first. Leave the task of following the child insects to us. Be careful and don't leak any information. I understand. After Lu Jin left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Jiang Zhen followed the insect. The insect's speed was also very fast. It didn't take them long to reach Jiang Zhen's residence. Under the cover of the night, the two of them were dressed in black, so they were not eye-catching. However, it was not easy to keep an eye on this insect. One could only lock onto it through its aura. Otherwise, one would not be able to see it at night. Lu Jin, you are finally here. Jiang Zhen saw Lu Jin and showed a happy smile. Why isn't Qiu here? He went to the forest a few days ago and hasn't returned yet. I don't know where he went to play. Lu Jin waved his hand, his smile showing some helplessness. He is young, it is normal for him to go out and explore. You have to understand him. Jiang Zhen put his hand on Lu Jin's shoulder. Su Shun and Tianzhao are already here. Let's go in and have a drink. After Lu Jin entered, he realized that Su Shun's family was here. It was quite lively. Chapter 7150. Lu Jin. Hearing that Lu Qiu wasn't at home, Su Yu couldn't help but ask, did he go out because he was traumatized? How dare you spout nonsense in front of your elders? Madame Su reprimanded. You were jealous of him in front of so many people. Do you think you're proud? Mother, I'm not, Su Shin smiled. Young people are hot-blooded. It's normal for them to be jealous. Why do you have to take it to heart? Back in the day we were like that too. Su Shin looked at Lu Jin. Am I right? That's right. Young people are hot-blooded after all. It's okay to quarrel. Don't take it to heart. Madame Su said with some pity. Qiu is also a cultivation genius. If it weren't for this curse, his strength would have improved by now. Yang Tianzhao couldn't help but ask, has there been any progress in Qiu's condition recently? Lu Jin shook his head. No. Madame Jiang also served the food and wine at this moment. After hearing this topic, she said, I believe that Qiu is blessed by the heavens. He will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Su Shin stayed on the roof. When they noticed that there were so many people inside, a trace of helplessness appeared on their faces. The child worms were extremely small, and they couldn't directly follow them in. Once they made it clear, the other party could directly kill the child worms. In this way, they could only be sure that the person who poisoned them was one of the three families, but they couldn't be sure who did it. I'm afraid these guys don't see eye to eye. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It was troublesome to make friends with these kinds of people. I wonder if Lu Jin will be able to find out the result? Di Baichen frowned slightly. Now that he had locked onto these three families, the target was much smaller, but he still couldn't be sure who it was. I'm afraid it's a little difficult. These guys are probably gloating about Lu Qiu's illness. Even if they're testing him, I'm afraid they'll say the same thing. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was beside him, and said, Madame Di, do you already have a way? Young Master Di, you're right. Let's go back. We'll know the result soon. Bailey Hongzhuang pulled Di Baichen back with her. She had no interest in staying on the roof. Lu Jin only came out of Jiang Zhen's house in the middle of the night. Just a moment ago, he was still drunk, but in an instant, he regained his senses. His eyes were cold, without a trace of warmth. How is it? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen sat on a tree branch and looked down at Lu Jin. Lu Jin raised his head. They're very tight-lipped, so I can't be sure. The other party purposely chose this time when everyone was gathered, so they probably didn't want to be suspected. I don't think Jiang Zhen is responsible for this. Otherwise, it would be too deliberate. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin nodded slightly. They didn't answer immediately and listened to Lu Jin's analysis. Yang Tianzhao doesn't look like it either. I'm afraid his medical skills aren't at this level yet. He's best at ordinary poisons, not goo poison. Maybe he's been hiding it all along? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Maybe it's a kind of intuition. Lu Jin still insisted on his judgment. I think it's most likely Su Shen's family. Why? You said before that the goo poison in Kyu's body should only act up after some time. It's strange that it suddenly acted up this time. I think this situation might be related to Su Shen's breakthrough to the elementary immortal stage. End of chapter. Chapter 71-51. It's because he has made a breakthrough that he doesn't have as many concerns as before. Lu Jin's eyes darkened. In fact, he had always known that Su Shen had some complaints about him, but he had been deliberately suppressing them because of the gap in strength between them. He didn't take it to heart. In his opinion, Su Shen was a guy who liked to act on impulse. Even if he was dissatisfied in his heart, it was often easy to show on his face. He really found it hard to believe that Su Shen was the one who did such a thing. If that was really the case, then Su Shen's concealment skills were really too superb. Most importantly, among the three families, he felt that Su Shen was the most likely one. Let's go to his house and see. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a confident smile as she walked towards Su Shen's house. Mrs. D. Lu Jin was a little surprised, but he still followed her. When Su Shen opened the door and saw Di Beichen and the others, his expression became very strange for a moment, but soon returned to normal. Lu Jin, why are you with young Master D and Miss Bailey? Is there something wrong? It's Mrs. D, Di Beichen said slowly. Su Shen was slightly stunned. After he reacted, he said a little embarrassedly, so it's Mrs. D. Forgive me for not recognizing you. You should know why we are here today, right? Bailey Hongzhuang pushed the door open with a faint smile and walked in. Su Shen hurriedly caught up with her, his face full of confusion. Mrs. D, I really don't understand what you mean. It doesn't matter if you don't know now. When we see your wife, everything will be clear. As soon as these words came out, Su Shen's expression suddenly changed. A touch of panic quietly flashed across his face, and then he looked at Lu Jin in confusion. Lu Jin, what do you mean? In any case, we've known each other for so many years. You didn't even give me a heads up before bringing two outsiders to my place. Isn't that too much? Lu Jin's expression was cold. We are here to confirm something. If we are wrong, we will apologize to you later. Not long after, Mrs. Su came out. Looking at the three people in front of her, she was indifferent. What brings you here so late at night? We didn't realize that Madame Su was such a character at first. We were really blind. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. The woman in front of her had an ordinary appearance, and was not outstanding at all. Her expression revealed some gentleness. Just by looking at the surface, no one would be able to tell that this gentle and virtuous woman would actually use such vicious means. Madame Su's face was filled with confusion. Madame D, this is the first time we've met. I really don't understand what you mean. Since I'm so straightforward, it means that I already have evidence. Why do you have to be so secretive? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes had a hint of coldness. You poisoned him, didn't you? Although it was a question, Bailey Hongzhuang used an affirmative tone. Goo poison? Madame D thinks too highly of me. Lu Jin couldn't help but frown when he saw this. The situation in front of him was not beyond his expectation. As long as there was no definite evidence, the other party would never admit it. It's not easy for Madame Su to raise goo worms, so she wants to take back the childworm. But this has already left the biggest clue. Chapter 71-52. Irrefutable Evidence. Hearing this, Madame Su's face changed slightly. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously, but her face remained calm. I don't understand what you're talking about. Why should I listen to you talk about these baseless fallacies in the middle of the night? Su Shen also glanced at Madame Su quietly. After seeing that the latter was not flustered, he was relieved. It was not the first time that they had done this kind of thing, and there had never been any problems. He believed that this time, it was impossible for them to be caught. It seems that Madame Su won't admit it if you don't show the evidence. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, like a flash in the pan, elegant and otherworldly. I put the fluorite powder in that goo worm. Fluorite powder? The three of them were a little confused. They had never heard of it before. You may not know much about the fluorite powder, but when the fluorite powder touches the thing in my hand, it will emit a little light. Isn't it very interesting? Bailey Hongzhuang held a white porcelain bottle in her hand, and Di Beichen had taken the clear water from one side at this moment. After mixing the white liquid in the white porcelain bottle with the clear water, Di Beichen's yuanli surged in his body, and the clear water instantly evaporated into mist, diffusing in the whole room. Su Shen and Lu Jin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise and doubt. This woman had been too calm from the moment she appeared. They had never heard of this so-called method, and even felt that this woman might just be scaring them. Trying to force them to admit it in such a way was too naive. I don't know what nonsense you are talking about. There is no light at all here. Madame Su's face was cold. She had already put the child worm into the box, and was not afraid of what he said at all. It was impossible to find the child worm. Put out the light. Lu Jin immediately blew out the candle. However, just after the room was dark, the little light on the ground became very obvious, and even clearly pointed out a way. Su Shen understood almost in an instant. Previously, Zichong had clearly gone to Jiang Zhen's house. If it wasn't for the two of them, it would be impossible to leave traces here. After seeing this scene, Su Shen and the other man were also dumbfounded. They didn't expect that everything Bailey Hongzhuang said was actually true. Madame Su, what do you have to say now? In the darkness of the night, the woman's eyes were as bright as the stars, exuding a lively luster. You're framing me. Su Shen reacted immediately. He stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze. His expression was gloomy and fierce. There is no enmity between us. Why are you slandering us like this? He turned to look at Lu Jin and said, Lu Jin, we've known each other for many years. You can't fall for their tricks. Looking at Su Shen's flawless acting skills, Bailey Hongzhuang secretly admired him. This guy is really good at acting. If it weren't for this, their family wouldn't have caused the Lu family to be in such a state without being discovered. Recalling that Su Shen had pulled Lu Jin to drink and chat merrily a few days ago, it was really ironic. Lu Jin had been watching this scene coldly. After confirming that all this was true, his eyes were terrifyingly cold. Su Shen, at this point, why do you still need to act? He suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were as cold as a sharp blade. End of this chapter. Chapter 71-53. Who said I was dead? In the face of Lu Jin, whose eyes were as sharp as ice blades, the panic on Su Shen's face gradually collapsed. A cold smile slowly climbed up the corners of his mouth. At this moment, all the amiable and approachable smiles turned into evilness and disdain. I thought you would die without knowing why, but I didn't expect you to see through all this at the last moment. But so what? You are the only one left in the whole Lu family. Isn't it a little pitiful to find out the truth through your son's death? Ha ha! Arrogant and indifferent laughter spread in the small house. Against the extremely ferocious face, people felt chills in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stood quietly aside. They promised to help Lu Jin find out the real murderer. They didn't need to get involved in this feud. After hearing such a big noise, Su Yu also came out of the house. After hearing all this, he was also a little surprised, but soon turned into indifference. Who said I was dead? A hoarse voice sounded, and Lu Qiu slowly walked into the house. Looking at the familiar face in front of them, Su Shen and his family were a little stunned. It was obvious that Lu Qiu couldn't be alive, but he appeared in front of them alive. How can you still be alive? Lady Su was shocked. Her goo venomous insects had never disappointed her. This time, it had been completed, and it was impossible for it to fail. Which, do you think you can kill me so easily? Lu Qiu's face was cold, and 2 clusters of fire were burning in his eyes. The anger in him almost burned out his reason. You despicable and shameless guys. You look sanctimonious, but you are so insidious behind my back. After a short surprise, Su Shen and his family quickly turned their eyes to Bailey Hongzhuang. Except for her, it should be no one else. You are also good at goo poison? Mrs. Su's black eyes were full of disbelief. She knew very well that there were very few people who were good at goo poison, and it was impossible for anyone in this town to know it. Even though everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were outstanding, she had never taken it to heart. Because goo poison itself was another branch, even if Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were good, she could only be helpless in this regard. She never thought that she would actually miscalculate. Are you the only one who knows how to do that? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Madame Su's face darkened. This is between us. It has nothing to do with you. Why are you getting involved? That's between me and Lu Jin. You usually think highly of yourself. I thought you wouldn't ask for help. I didn't expect that your arrogance was just an act. Su Shen sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Lu Jin's face was steely. There's no point in saying more. Today I will avenge my family. A powerful force broke out from Lu Jin's body. At this moment, he didn't hide his strength as usual. The strength of the elementary celestial stage was undoubtedly revealed. Feeling this aura, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Sure enough, Lu Jin had broken through to the elementary celestial stage for some time. His aura was stronger than Su Shen's. Su Shen was not to be outdone. Lu Jin, you used to rely on your strength to make decisions for us. Now that I have broken through to the elementary celestial stage, do you think you can still do whatever you want? End of this chapter. Chapter 7154. Mobile reading. The two of them collided with each other as soon as they finished speaking. Vigorous elemental energy gushed out in torrent. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest immediately rushed out of the house. The room was unable to withstand the power of the battle between 2 elementary immortal experts. On the other side, Su Yu and Lu Qiu were also enemies. Their eyes blazed with hatred when they met. First, they fought over a beauty, and now, it involved the enmity of their clans. The two of them did not show any mercy when they fought. Madame Su looked around, and her gaze finally fell on Di Baichen. She didn't do anything for the time being. Boom! Boom! Terrifying energy ripples spread out, and the Su family's house was instantly razed to the ground. Such a huge commotion immediately woke up the other people in the town. They ran out of their houses one after another. When they saw what had happened, they were also at a loss. Why are Lu Jin and Su Shen fighting? Didn't they drink together before? My goodness, when did Lu Jin break through to the elementary celestial stage? From the looks of it, they seemed to have a deep grudge against each other. Everyone looked at the two people who were fighting fiercely in bewilderment. They clearly wanted to take each other's lives. Young Master D, you are here too. Do you know what happened? Shopkeeper Shen noticed that Di Baichen and Li Wuyo were already here, so he couldn't help but ask. Di Baichen smirked and turned to look at his side. You'll have to ask my wife about this. She knows the situation best. Madam. Everyone was slightly taken aback. They looked back and forth between the two for a moment before they understood. I see. Mrs. D, can you tell us what's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen helplessly. This guy had been scheming all along. The so-called curse of the Lu family is actually Madame Su's poison. Her explanation was very simple. Everyone immediately understood after hearing this, and their eyes were filled with shock. My God, The curse of the Lu family was actually caused by Su Xin? No wonder Lu Jin is so angry. I didn't expect that Su Xin's family, who usually looks so ordinary, had a conspiracy. It's really scary. Everyone couldn't help but shake off the goosebumps on their bodies. The feeling of being stabbed in the back was still very scary. Fortunately, they usually did not offend Su Xin. Otherwise, their situation would probably be similar to the Lu family. Originally, there were several people in the family, but now only the two of them were left. It was really pitiful. Now that Su Xin's family has been exposed, they are even more fearless. This world had always been about strength. As long as one had strength, everything else was nothing. I didn't expect the truth to be like this. I really feel bad for Qiu. Su Xing's face also became very ugly. His relationship with Lu Qiu was not very close before, but since Lu Qiu agreed to help him last time, the relationship between the two of them had become much closer. He had always hoped that the curse of the Lu family could be broken as soon as possible, but he didn't expect the real reason to be like this. Young Master D, can Qiu and the others win? Su Xing asked worriedly. It was obvious that he was thinking about whether he should rush up as well. Di Baichen looked at the two people fighting above and said, according to my observation, Lu Jin's strength is slightly stronger than Su Xin's. It should be no problem. This book came from Chapter 7155. Mobile reading, Patriarch Lu, if you need our help, just say the word. Di Baichen said with a faint smile. Then, he held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and jumped down from the tree. However, we won't help for free. Hearing this, Lu Jin looked at the two people below and a strange look flashed across his eyes. The other party's words were obviously enough to give him something to rely on. As long as Di Baichen joined in, Su Xin would definitely lose. On the other side, Su Xin's face also became very ugly. He didn't know when the relationship between Di Baichen and the others had become so good. Most importantly, Di Baichen dared to say such words at this time, which was enough to prove that his strength was also not ordinary. Otherwise, a Radiant Sun stage cultivator wouldn't even be qualified to participate in their battle. Shall we go back? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Otherwise? Di Baichen smiled faintly. Lu Jin can handle it. When we wake up tomorrow, everything will be settled. We just have to wait for the time to set off. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also felt that Su Xin was no match for Lu Jin. The next day, when Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the house, they found that the atmosphere in the small town was indescribably complicated. The expressions of the people on the street were somewhat emotional, as if they were still immersed in disbelief. Di Baichen noticed that Su Xin's house had been razed to the ground while Lu Jin's house on the other side was still intact. He already knew the result. Presumably, after yesterday's battle, the Su family had already been removed from this small town. Mr. D, Mrs. D, good morning. Lu Qiu walked over with a smile, obviously in a very good mood. Did you win last night? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lu Qiu nodded his head and said proudly. Of course, in the past Su Yu wasn't my opponent at all. If it wasn't for this goo poison, how could he have defeated me last time? This time, I finally got my revenge. I have to thank all of you. You're welcome. We're just helping each other. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. My father asked me to buy some healing medicine. That old fellow Su Xin couldn't beat my father yesterday and actually self-destructed in the end. Fortunately, my father dodged, but he still suffered some injuries. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Is it serious? Do you need me to take a look? No need. Lu Qiu waved his hand. It's not serious. I'll be fine after resting for a while. That's good. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang found that the people in the town were getting closer to them. It felt like they had replaced the Su family's existence. Because they had helped the Lu family find the source of the curse, everyone had a common enemy. Under such circumstances, the two of them were able to live more freely here. Without those rejections, Life in this small town was indeed very leisurely. Lu Jin and the others went to the crossing Immortal Domain once a year. There were still 3 months before their next trip. Coincidentally, Lu Jin and Lu Jin both needed to recuperate. This trip was very dangerous. Even if they were in their best condition, it was inevitable that they would lose their lives, let alone now that they were injured. After 3 months, the two of them would be almost fully recovered and they would be able to set off for the crossing Immortal Domain. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin did not slack off. They cultivated with all their might, hoping for more protection. Therefore, the two of them directly announced that they were going into seclusion and went to the Holy Spirit Tree in the mystic realm to cultivate. This book came from Chapter 7156. Mobile Reading Immortal Domain. My lord, we've found the cause of Qing Ji's death. The man half knelt in front of a green-robed man, his expression reserved and respectful. The man raised his eyebrows and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's going on?" According to our investigation, Qing Ji was just unlucky. She offended 2 cultivators from the chaotic immortal realm who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage and died in their hand. Even though there were people in the immortal domain who wanted to harm Qing Ji died before they even arrived. In that case, it has nothing to do with these fellows from the immortal region. Yes. Have you checked the background of those 2 people? Could they be in contact with the people from the immortal region, but you were deceived? Qing Devil's eyes narrowed slightly. It was extremely difficult for a cultivator at the elementary celestial stage to appear in the chaos celestial realm. 1 person was already very rare, let alone 2 people. My lord, we also suspected that there was someone behind them, so we investigated the matter very clearly. In the end, we confirmed that they were cultivators without any background and had no contact with the immortal region. However, they have already left their original city. I reckon that they should have come to the immortal domain. Oh! Qing Devil smiled. They came to the immortal realm? Since they've delivered themselves to our doorstep, we'll make sure they don't leave. Our men are already looking for their whereabouts. What are their names? Di Beichen. Di Beichen? The light in Qing Mo's eyes suddenly froze. He suddenly stood up, his fierce eyes staring straight at the man in front of him. Suddenly being stared at by such a gaze, the man couldn't help but shiver. He nodded and said, "That person is called Di Beichen. Is there a problem?" Qing Devil narrowed his eyes. "Is the other one called Bailey Hongzhuang?" This time, the man couldn't help but be stunned. "How did you know, my lord?" Qing Devil paused for a while and suddenly laughed crazily. What a waste of effort! The man looked at Qing Devil, whose personality had changed greatly, and couldn't help but feel flustered. Ever since Qing Devil came back from the ancient battlefield, her personality had become even stranger. Although he didn't understand why she suddenly became like this, he didn't dare to say anything for fear that he would be implicated. "We must find these 2 people," Qing Devil immediately ordered. "Once you find them, report to me immediately. Don't alert them." Yes. After the man left, Qing Devil's eyes darkened again. "Back then, I let you slip away from the ancient battlefield, but I won't let you get away this time." 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Zichen had already come out of the secret territory and returned to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. As soon as the door was opened, many people ran over. "Young Master D, you've been in seclusion for so long. It's not easy for us to buy something." Everyone sighed. It was inconvenient when there was no Immortal Treasure Pavilion, but they had gotten used to it. Since they had the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they felt even more uncomfortable when it was suddenly gone. Looking at the friendly crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help smiling. These people were very difficult to get along with when they didn't accept her. But after getting to know them, she found they were quite nice. Soon, Lu Jin came to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. "How's your injury?" Di Beichen asked. Lu Jin moved his arm and said with a smile, I've completely recovered. It won't affect me at all. Chapter 7157. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When do you plan to leave? Before we depart, I have to introduce you to Jiang Zhen and the others. Every time we go there, we go together. The heavenly moat is filled with danger, just us alone is not enough. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin nodded slightly. They understood in their hearts. Jiang Zhen, Su Shen, Yang Tianzhao and Lu Jin must have been working together in the past. That was why the four of them had a close relationship. This time, Su Shen was naturally unable to go, but the others would still go. Did you tell them that we're going? Di Beichen asked slowly. They might not accept it. Even though everyone had already accepted them as part of the town, it would still be difficult for others to agree to participate in such an important matter. Most importantly, according to their judgment, the person who poisoned Shen Xianglin was most likely Yang Tianzhao. Shen Xianglin had not offended Yang Tianzhao before, nor had he done anything out of line. Therefore, it was very likely that the reason why he was treated this way was related to them. Lu Jin also understood what the two of them meant and said, I've already mentioned it to them once, but they weren't very willing to accept it, especially Dr. Yang. So, when we go over later, what they say might not be very nice. I hope you don't take it to heart. We understand. Bailey Hongzhuang expressed her understanding. Under such circumstances, no one would be willing to accept two strangers. I will convince them. I will definitely do what I promised you, Lu Jin emphasized. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin appeared at Jiang Zhen's house, Jiang Zhen and Yang Tianzhao's expressions were a little strange. They only looked at the two indifferently and didn't say anything. Lu Jin walked in with familiarity. Why are you guys unhappy? Su Shen can't join us this time. With them around, we'll be safer. I object. Yang Tianzhao made his attitude clear with a cold face. Lu Jin, I know you're doing this because the two of them helped you find the real culprit. I can understand that you want to repay the favor, but don't you think it's too risky to involve them in this kind of thing? They are trustworthy people. I hope you can trust me. I won't let everyone take the risk. Lu Jin's expression was serious. Back then, he had also had his suspicions. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had saved Qiyu, he had never been completely at ease. It was just that the things they did later gave him a sense of security. If the other party wanted to do something, there was no need for them to waste so much effort. Even if the other party poisoned them, there was nothing they could do. Seeing that Lu Jin was so certain, Jiang Zhen's attitude softened. Are you sure? I guarantee it with my life. Hearing this, Jiang Zhen sighed. All right, since you've already said so, I'll believe you. Believe him for what? Yang Tianzhao sneered. Don't you know that their goal is not to stay in this town, but to enter the crossing immortal domain? Don't you know how risky this is? If anything happens, no one will be able to bear the responsibility. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze hardened. Their judgment was right. Yang Tianzhao already knew everything. Chapter 7158. How did you know? Lu Jin suddenly asked. He hadn't told anyone about this yet, so Yang Tianzhao shouldn't have known about it. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Since you've made such a plan, you should have realized that it's very likely that all of this will be known by others. If I'm not wrong, you heard about it from Duanshen, right? Di Beichen's voice was mild, and his starry eyes shone with a wise luster. After Shen Xianglin was poisoned, they had thought about it carefully and felt that the biggest reason for the whole thing should be this. Now that Yang Tianzhao had taken the initiative to talk about all this, everything was even more certain. Yang Tianzhao looked at Di Beichen in astonishment, then his face returned to its usual cold expression. That's right, I was the one who poisoned Shen Xianglin. Why did you poison Shen Xianglin and not us? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Yang Tianzhao should want to deal with them, but he had to take such a complicated route to deal with Shen Xianglin. It was really troublesome. I want to test your abilities. Yang Tianzhao's expression was calm. Naturally, he wanted to directly deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Run. This way there wouldn't be so much trouble. However, he also understood that the person who could concoct the immortal establishment pill was definitely an expert, so he did not rashly try. Shen Xianglin had proven that his judgment was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were definitely above his. Lu Jin finally understood that Yang Tianzhao had never mentioned this matter to him. Tianzhao, just trust me this time. Jiang Zhen, who was listening from the side, was confused. He didn't quite understand what was going on until he heard everything. Only then did he understand what was going on. It turned out that there were so many things that happened before this, and he actually didn't know about it. Then come to think of it, Yang Tianzhao and Di Beichen had become enemies. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them were stronger, Yang Tianzhao would have already dealt with them. If you want to make a move on me, then don't wait. Yang Tianzhao looked coldly at the two of them. Even though he had never seen them fight, he could guess that they were at the elementary celestial stage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so confident. If we wanted to make a move, you would already be dead, Di Beichen said calmly. Yang Tianzhao was slightly taken aback. He then lowered his head and fell into silence. After a short while, Lu Jin said, "If you're unwilling, then let's split up." Yang Tianzhao suddenly raised his head and looked at Lu Jin in disbelief. "Are you really determined?" "They saved my life." Lu Jin nodded. "I will definitely fulfill my promise." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and looked at Di Beichen. "Let's go." Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned around and left together. Thinking about it, there shouldn't be any problems if the three of them set off together. Tianzhao. Jiang Zhen frowned. Without Lu Jin, it was impossible for the two of them to cross the heavenly moat. Wait. Just as the two of them were about to leave, Yang Tianzhao's voice rang out. Lu Jin turned around and heard him say, "Let's go together." The stiff atmosphere in the room eased up with these words. Jiang Zhen and the others all smiled. "That's more like it. We're all in this together." Chapter 71-59. Inside the Heavenly Moat. "All of you, come in quickly. Don't just stand outside." Jiang Zhen quickly beckoned everyone into the house. "We have to set off in 2 days. We have to discuss this properly so that we don't miss out on anything." Lu Jin and the other two returned to the house. Although Yang Tianzhao looked a little unnatural, he was no longer as hostile as before. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also very calm. They did not take this matter to heart. They did not care whether Yang Tianzhao accepted them or not. Their goal was to enter the crossing celestial domain. Other than that, they had nothing to do with anything else. "What do we need to prepare before we enter the heavenly moat?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. "There are many dangers in the heavenly moat. Anything can happen." Lu Jin's expression was very solemn. "We know of a path that is slightly less dangerous, but even so, it is not easy to pass through. If we are not careful, we will lose our lives. Even experts in the elementary celestial realm are no exception." Lu Jin looked at Di Beichen and Jiang Zhen. Obviously, he was reminding them not to take it lightly just because they had a high cultivation level. This natural chasm is extremely deep. With our cultivation, it's impossible for us to fly over it. Even if we can fly over it, there will be many ferocious flying beasts along the way. The difficulty won't be much lower. Our route is to use a rope to enter the heavenly moat and walk to the crossing celestial domain. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. They had made the same judgment previously. This method seemed to take many detours. However, other than that, there was no other way. The heavenly moat is very deep. Hence, it is completely dark below. There is no sunlight at all. It is dark and humid. The environment is terrible. At this point, helplessness appeared on the faces of Lu Jin and the other two. Although they went there once a year, the environment there, they did not want to think about it. How long do we need to reach the crossing celestial domain? About 1.5 months, Lu Jin said. The distance between here and the crossing immortal region is not far. With our usual speed, we can get there in 7 days. However, the underground environment is really terrible. Our speed is very slow. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief. The timing was better than she had expected. That kind of cold and damp environment was indeed not what everyone liked, but she was no stranger to such an environment. In such an environment, the power of darkness was at its densest, and they were very used to it. There's a lot of miasma and fog in there, so you can't see the route clearly. Once you inhale too much of the miasma, it's easy to hallucinate. In the past, many people have lost their lives because of this. You have to be careful. There will be many monsters along the way. Normally, no cultivators would pass through the heavenly moat, and the monsters inside would not be killed by anyone. Therefore, their strength had evolved to a terrifying level. We once encountered a demon in the elementary immortal realm and almost lost our lives there. Jiang Zhen seemed to recall that experience. There was still a hint of fear between his brows. Not only that, there will be other dangerous places. However, we have some experience. When the time comes, don't act on your own. Listen to our arrangements and you should be able to get through it safely. End of chapter. Chapter 7160. Manager, Crossing Immortal Domain. We won't act on our own. You don't have to worry. Di Baichen said when he noticed the worry in their eyes. They had experienced this many times before. If they acted rashly, they would disrupt everyone's pace. Hence, this was the last thing they wanted to see when they were moving together. Lu Jin and the other two were relieved when they saw how sensible the two of them were. It was no wonder that the two of them could reach such a cultivation level at such a young age. Compared to cultivators of the same age, they were indeed much more mature. Although we have a certain understanding of the natural chasm, we can't guarantee that there won't be any problems. Every once in a while, there will be some changes in the natural chasm. Be it the migration of monsters or the changes in the environment, these are all things we can't control. If there's any danger, we can work together. Jiang Zhen looked at Di Baichen. In terms of cultivation level, he and Yang Tianzhao were only at the Radiant Sun realm. Although they were only one step away from the elementary immortal realm, they had not reached it. In the past, with Su Shen around, the four of them could almost get through the natural chasm. Now that Su Shen was gone, if Di Baichen and Yang Tianzhao did not help them, they would be slightly inferior. I understand. Di Baichen replied. Since it's a collaboration, we will naturally do our best. However, you know that our goal is to enter the crossing immortal domain. When we go, we will naturally do our best. But what will you do when we return? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. As long as they could enter the crossing immortal domain successfully, they would definitely not return. You don't have to worry about this. We have basically cleared most of the obstacles along the way. We can't be sure about the animal-type monsters, but we have already dealt with the plant-type monsters. Hence, the difficulty of returning will be much lower than when we went in, Lu Jin said. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. After Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen explained the situation in the natural chasm, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Tianzhao had a better understanding of everything. The vague concepts in their minds gradually became clearer. All these years, we have only been doing business with the crossing immortal domain. No one has ever entered the crossing immortal domain, and no one from the crossing immortal domain has ever come out. You are taking a risk this time. All we can do is bring you there, but if you can't convince them, there is nothing we can do. Yang Tianzhao's face was calm, and his voice was still distant. Is the person doing business with you the manager of the crossing immortal domain? Di Baichen suddenly asked. Not bad. The crossing immortal domain has been sealed off since a few years ago. The person in charge there is at the elementary immortal realm. Although we don't know, I think they should be connected to the immortal domain. Otherwise, they wouldn't be willing to stay in the immortal domain. After a while, Lu Jin slowly voiced his guess. They're doing business with us in secret just to enrich their own pocket. However, in all these years, they have never allowed any cultivators from the immortal domain to come out, so it is still very difficult. All you need to do is bring us there and leave the rest to us. We'll cut all ties with you once we get there. Just pretend that you don't know us. All right, Yang Tianzhao said. Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen's expressions were slightly complicated. Their goal is to go in. We still have to do business in the future, Yang Tianzhao emphasized. End of chapter. Chapter 71-61. Let's go, the special rope. Young Master Yang is right. We are already very grateful that you are willing to take us there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. There was no friendship between them and Yang Tianzhao in the first place, so it was not strange for him to have such an attitude. As for her, she could not be bothered to pay attention to him. All right then, Lu Jin said awkwardly. After they came out, Lu Jin said apologetically, Tianzhao has always been like this. Please forgive him. We didn't take it to heart. Lu Jin was relieved to see that Di Baichen and Wang Chang's expressions were normal, without the slightest hint of dissatisfaction. The two of you are really broad-minded. If it were any other person, they would have been angry long ago when faced with such a situation. Previously, he was really worried that Yang Tianzhao would be so rude that he would provoke Di Baichen and Di Baichen into a fight. He didn't have the confidence to protect Yang Tianzhao from the two of them. Even though he had never seen them fight before, he had a vague feeling that the strength of these two people was not simple. He had the confidence to defeat Su Shun, but he didn't have the confidence to defeat either of these two people. This was because their usual performance revealed an indescribable foundation. Brother Lu, you flatter us. We just don't want to complicate matters. Lu Jin nodded bitterly. He knew that it wouldn't be easy for the two of them to resolve their differences. In any case, they had only been together for a little more than a month. As long as they paid attention, there shouldn't be any problems. According to Lu Jin's instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin prepared enough things before the four of them set off together. Everyone in the town knew about this matter. When they found out that Di Baichen and Shifeng were actually involved in this matter, they were somewhat surprised. However, after thinking about Su Shun's family, they immediately understood. Young Master Di and the others must be quite strong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been recognized. I've been waiting for so long, but I didn't get the chance to go. I didn't expect them to be able to go so soon after coming to town. Have a safe journey. We'll be waiting for your good news. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest left for the Heavenly Moat after everyone in the town said their goodbyes. During this process, Lu Jin and the other two also carefully observed their surroundings. After ensuring that there was no one nearby, they finally felt at ease and took out the rope. The natural moat is very deep. It will take us a long time to reach the bottom. During this process, we might encounter danger at any moment. So, you must not be careless, Lu Jin reminded them. Jiang Zhen added, there are monsters on the mountain walls. There are also quite a number of monsters. Some of the monsters live here. Even if it's just a few vines, we still have to be on guard against them. What about our rope? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. The journey was so dangerous. If there was a problem with the rope, they would be doomed eternally. Our rope is specially made. It won't break. You can rest assured. Yang Tianzhao threw 2 ropes to Di Baichen and Shifeng. There's only one rope. If you lose it, it'll be gone. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the rope in her hand. As soon as she held the rope in her hand, she could feel its different texture. Obviously, this rope was also a magic treasure. Don't worry. I won't tamper with it. Yang Tianzhao's annoying voice sounded again. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yang Tianzhao indifferently. Her eyes revealed a trace of frosty indifference. Tianzhao, Lu Jin said sternly. End of chapter. Chapter 7162. Looking at Lu Jin's serious face, Yang Tianzhao shifted his gaze away and stopped saying those annoying words. Fix the rope here. We have specially prepared this place for our journey to the crossing immortal domain. We just need to leave the rope here when we reach the bottom. We will still have to rely on this fellow when we return. Lu Jin raised the rope in his hand. This thing looks simple, but it will be of great help to us. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and imitated Lu Jin. She tied one end of the rope to the iron hook under the huge rock and tried to pull it. Sure enough, it was very firm. Let's go down. You all have to be careful. Don't worry, we understand. After everyone was ready, they looked at each other and jumped down the rope together. The moment he jumped off the moat, the cold wind blew from below, emitting a coldness that made one's heart palpitate. Bailey Hongzhuang did not descend quickly because the fog was very thick and they could not see the situation below clearly. Lu Jin and the others were also moving at a slower speed. They were constantly on guard against any unexpected situations. Fortunately, after descending for a long time, they did not encounter any danger. They could be considered very lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to descend in an orderly manner. As she descended further and further, the temperature gradually decreased as well. The cold wind carried a faint moist aura, and the surrounding environment gradually darkened. They couldn't observe their surroundings very well with their naked eyes, so they could only use their mental strength to confirm everything. Hiss! A soft sound suddenly rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was focused on descending, only then did she notice that the vines beside her had spat out snake apricots and were suddenly biting towards her. Monster! Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly in her heart. A sharp blade had already appeared in her hand, and she quickly stabbed towards the huge snake. Vigorous essence energy seeped into the dagger and ruthlessly pierced into the large snake's head. Rip! The sound of flesh being torn apart could be heard. The snake let out a miserable shriek before finally dying. Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed the snake's body and skillfully removed its gallbladder before throwing it away. Master, what do you need this snake gall for? Xiao Hei stuck out half of its head. Just looking at that black thing gave it goosebumps. This snake is not weak. The snake's gallbladder can be used as medicine. She usually needed these things to make some medicinal powders. Hongzhuang, are you all right? Di Beichen's concerned voice sounded. He was not far away and heard the commotion. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It's fine. Let's continue. The monsters here aren't very strong. It won't be difficult to deal with them. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang looked down at the bottomless abyss with a hint of amazement in her eyes. The depth of this abyss was much deeper than what they had encountered before. Compared to this place, perhaps the abyss they had encountered before could not even be called an abyss. We'll have to spend more than a day just going down, and this is under the condition that we don't encounter any danger. Lu Jin heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Hei and explained. No wonder it's called a natural moat. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and continued to fly down the rope. Ah! Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out. Chapter 7163. Everyone turned their heads to look at the source of the sound. When they realized that it was Jiang Zhen who had screamed, they looked around him. Everyone's expression changed instantly. It was a huge snake. At a glance, they could tell that it was several 100 feet long. If the snake Bailey Hongzhuang had encountered was a huge snake, then the one in front of them was a huge snake. At this moment, the huge snake was staring at Jiang Zhen with its black, oval eyes, as if it was looking at a delicious meal. Master, why do I feel that this snake is somewhat familiar? The corner of Xiao Hei's mouth twitched slightly. Wasn't this guy an enlarged version of the snake they had seen before? This guy won't be easy to deal with. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. That snake could be dealt with one hand. This snake in front of them had probably reached the elementary celestial stage. Jiang Zhen's face turned pale. Facing the pair of cold and inhuman eyes, he subconsciously held his breath. In his heart, he wanted nothing more than to curse out loud. What kind of luck is this? How could we encounter such a troublesome guy? The huge snake stared at Jiang Zhen for a moment before it slithered over. Save me. As Jiang Zhen retreated, his body descended rapidly as he called for help. The huge snake was not in a hurry when it saw Jiang Zhen running away. Its long body suddenly plunged downward at an astonishing speed. Lu Jin's expression changed abruptly. He looked at Di Baichen and Xiao He gravely and said, "Jiang Zhen is in danger. I need your help." Di Baichen and Xiao He naturally understood that since they were working together, they would do their best to protect each other's safety. Almost at the same time, everyone sped up and rushed down. We've met this snake once before. At that time, it was fighting with another demonic beast. We only saw it from afar and then quickly escape. We weren't discovered by it. I didn't expect that our luck would be so bad this time. Do you know how strong this guy is? Di Baichen asked. According to my judgment, it's an elementary immortal. However, its combat prowess is above mine. I'm no match for it. Lu Jin admitted frankly, not only is it stronger than me, but it's also like a fish in water here. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that they needed to rely on the rope as support, and the giant snake seemed to know the environment like the back of its hand. It didn't need any support at all. Its flexible body allowed it to move as if it was walking on flat ground. The three of us can still give it a try. Her ink-black phoenix eyes rippled with a bright luster, and there was not the slightest ripple on her bright and moving face. The three of them increased their speed. The wind whistled past their ears, and they could vaguely hear cries for help coming from below. Bailey Hongzhuang pushed her speed to the limit and finally saw the snake tail that was as thick as a 100-year-old tree. Swish, swish. The flying dagger shot out at lightning speed, directly piercing into the giant snake's flesh and disappearing. In an instant, she noticed that the giant snake had stopped. It no longer chased after Jiang Zhen, but slowly turned its head, its cold eyes staring at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. "Stupid guy," a hoarse and harsh voice came from the giant snake's mouth. It stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if it had already identified the person who attacked just now. Chapter 7164. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The demon in front of her was indeed not simple. "I wanted to eat that guy first, but since you can't wait to deliver yourself to me, I'll fulfill your wish." The giant snake's icy gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. It waved its tail and a flying dagger flew out. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly dodged, but behind her, several flying daggers were deeply embedded in the mountain wall. This was the flying knife that she had shot into the snake's tail. Voila! The giant snake suddenly moved and attacked at high speed. He opened his bloody mouth and revealed his sharp fangs. At the same time, a fishy smell assaulted his senses. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang dodged to the side, but the mountain behind her was directly smashed into a huge hole. Raising her right hand slightly, the long sword was already in her hand. With a leap, she jumped directly onto the head of the giant snake. At this time, Di Baichen and Lu Jin also moved at the same time, and a terrifying power attacked. "Hit where it hurts." The giant snake coldly snorted and swept its tail. Three terrifying forces collided in midair, creating a shocking explosion. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. This snake's strength really couldn't be underestimated. It was able to deal with Baichen and Lu Jin's combined attacks. It was definitely stronger than the three of them. The three of them had ropes tied to their backs as they spun in the air. Their attacks were unceasingly launched, but the giant snake only used its head and tail to attack. The other parts of its body were fiercely protecting its vital point. They simply could not get close to it. "This won't do." Di Baichen furrowed his brows. If they couldn't attack its vital points, they wouldn't be able to cause much damage to it. Once their essence energy was depleted, they would be at a disadvantage. Lu Jin, I'll attack the head, you attack the tail. Hong Zhuang, look for an opportunity to attack his vitals. All right. Di Baichen stomped his foot on the mountain wall and his body shot out explosively. His long sword was mixed with a terrifying sword aura. The giant snake who originally didn't take Di Baichen seriously felt the sharp sword aura. Its contemptuous gaze finally changed and for the first time, it started to dodge. At the same time, Lu Jin also attacked its tail. The snake's tail was no doubt the most agile. It was very difficult for him to control it, but he was best at strength. Immediately after, everyone noticed a very frightening scene. Lu Jin's hands directly embedded into the giant snake's tail and used a terrifying strength to pull the giant snake backward. The strength of demonic beasts was much stronger than that of humans. Normally, no one would compete with demonic beasts in strength. However, this time they saw someone directly in a tug-of-war with a demonic beast. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Lu Jin was really too honest. Attacking from the head and tail, the giant snake's coiled body unconsciously scattered a little. However, it still tightly covered its vitals. Bailey Hongzhuang swiftly flew over and her long sword emitted a terrifying sword aura as it ruthlessly pierced into the giant snake's body. The long sword was only able to pierce halfway and was unable to continue. The giant snake's body was simply too huge, and the long sword was unable to pierce through. However, she didn't stop there. The terrifying sword aura continued to spread, forming a terrifying sword aura which continued to extend downward. The intense pain stimulated the giant snake, and a mournful cry rang out. It immediately ignored Di Baichen and opened its bloody mouth to attack Bailey Hongzhuang.